Welcome to the Ultimate Intimacy Podcast with Nick and Amy, and we are so grateful and excited to have on one of our favorite guests, Cindy Scharkey. She is the expert in pretty much all things with the female body, right? And we've had a lot of women reaching out to us and saying, "Talk to us about perimenopause."
Or husbands,
Or
yes.
husbands, yeah. Like, how do I handle this? How do I navigate this? And so we're so excited to have you on and talk about this important subject. So thank you so much for joining us.
I'm delighted to be with you again. Yes.
Since we haven't had you on in just a little while, will you just tell a little bit about yourself and your background again? Because I know you're a nurse
Sure.
and you've got some of that really awesome credentials. So
Yeah, no, I've been a nurse for over 3 decades and I've done a lot of women's health, a lot of other things too. But my passion now is educating women, parents about sex, their bodies, pleasure. I wrote a book called Permission for Pleasure. I have a podcast called Permission for Pleasure. My platform is really kind of like the sex ed you didn't get from your nurse friend. How's
which
that?
people,
Which is most people, correct?
just
Yeah.
most people.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
thanks for having me again.
Well,
absolutely.
and many of you have probably listened, I think, episode 31, which was a long time ago, The Key to Unlocking Female Pleasure, which Cindy did, which I think is our most downloaded episode
Right.
because everyone wants to know, like,
Right.
what is this and how does this work? And I think even being married 22 years, like, it's amazing how one night things can work and the next night it doesn't. And you're like,
Yes,
wow,
totally normal.
so
And that's the thing, like husbands want to know, and the women want to know too. They're like, help. So
and then you
Sure.
go in the perimenopause and you're like, what is going on? My world is just,
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a time of transition for the whole home, but especially for the woman, there's just, and it can be a long time of transition. I think that's what I'd like people to hear is it could be 10 years or more of this season of change. And um, that can be disruptive.
right.
well, I love the word you just used, and that's change. And for some people, change can be a very scary time. And we
Mm.
often think as change is a bad thing, but maybe jumping in, how can this obviously a woman's body is changing, different things are happening. It affects so many different things within the marriage and the household and sexual intimacy and things like that.
Mhm.
And again, a lot of times change is often looked at as a negative thing,
Hmm.
but
Mm.
how can we look at this change and turn it into something that doesn't negatively affect our relationships, right?
In all the ways, right?
Yeah, great question, and such a good frame of mind for people, because the truth of the matter is, so many of us, I'm of course way over on the other side. We come into ourselves. I mean, I try to tell women, these are the best years of your lives in so many ways when you get through that transition and season because you understand your body. You come to care more about taking care of yourself and your needs, and there's a lot of freedom on the others, when you get through the transition, I think. And the research is clear. The people that describe having the most extraordinary sex are over 50. That's what the research shows.
Wow.
So take heart. People think, oh, my sex life's over. You're just beginning.
That's great to
That's
hear.
really great news.
It is really great to hear because I think so many people feel like the opposite, like, oh man, completely changed. What
Uh-huh.
what are some of the
Mhm.
signs that people can look for that maybe they know their body's changing, or that women can look for?
I mean, I think a lot of husbands are like, whoa, I don't even know this existed. Nobody really
Yeah.
talks to me about it. But a lot of women are like, wait, am I in it? Like, what's
Mhm.
the difference with perimenopause and menopause? And how do I
Mhm.
know? And why is this affecting me this way? And yeah, like
Sure.
that, is it ever going to come back?
Yeah. Well, perimenopause is all that transition time when things are shifting with your hormones and your menstrual cycle, until you no longer have a period. And once you no longer have a period for 12 months, then you're in menopause. So everything leading up to that is perimenopause.
Right.
Interesting.
And right. So until you don't have a period for a whole year, you're in perimenopause. So that's the distinction between menopause and perimenopause. And there's just a long list of symptoms. So, and every woman is different. This is what we need to be clear about. Okay. Everyone is different. Some people are going to have hot flashes, vasomotor, seriously, where they're dripping wet, just night sweats, and it's so disruptive. Just, all their vasodilator issues. Okay, yeah, you're raising your hand, and I appreciate. Me too.
Actually, Nick raised it for me.
Oh yeah, and I was too. That was something I was almost It was just I couldn't function as a nurse. Like I had my mask on, my gloves on. I'm doing a major something, and I'm like, dripping wet.
Yeah.
Really problematic, really not right, not clean. Anyway, such a nurse thing, but not everybody has those kinds of symptoms, right? Some people just really struggle with period irregularity or heavy periods, or I call it the period roulette. Like you never know what you're going to get month to month. And that is so hard to deal with. It's just like, you're just waiting to see, what's it going to be now? And that's hard. There's mood changes, there's brain fog, there's joint pain. There's a long list of what people can experience and to what level they experience it. And that's very individual. But I do think the hot flashes get a lot of pub, right? Everybody hears about that. But the period roulette is really difficult for a lot of women.
Right. I saw a video recently, and I don't even remember what it was. It was like months ago, but it was like a guy complaining about like my wife is like a whole new person in her 40s. Like I don't even know who this person is. She's crazy, And I was like, okay, trying to be realistic. I'm like, sometimes like I kind of noticed that about myself now, which has happened ever in our marriage. And I'm like, okay, like hopefully you can give, advice to the women too, but like the men, like be patient. Like she is going through a lot, even if she seems a little crazy sometimes,
Well, I think it's important to call that out, Amy. I mean, and this is why I think this transition time is so key for couples who are in long-term relationships. How are you going to communicate and nurture each other through this season so that you are stronger, more connected, and more in tune with each other over 50?
Love it.
And this is key. So if we don't bump up our communication and we don't learn to show a lot more grace and we don't get more gentle, we're going to see the result of that, 10 years down the line, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I love that you brought up communication, and we hit on that all the time, right? And almost anything can be resolved with good communication, but oftentimes, we hear from husbands that are like, "Oh, maybe I just move out for a little bit." And like you do your thing, but and I say that jokingly, of course, but yeah, I think just talking, especially from a woman's standpoint, and expressing to the husband, because a lot of times husbands are like, "Who am I married to? Who is this lady?" And they don't. As a man, we don't really understand what our wives are going through. Like we don't understand it, and so,
or even know they're going through something.
Yeah,
right? A lot of us keep very, to ourselves. We kind of just try to hold it in and suck it up.
Yeah, we're just like, it's the woman that I married. So if you can have that good communication, especially the wives, talking to their husbands, say, "Hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm experiencing." Hopefully we as husbands can be a little more understanding and I'll offer the support and things that are
well. And also I that's great. And also let's have the husband say, like, give me like the top 3 things that are really bothering you or that are impacting you the most in this season. Is it the vaginal dryness? Is it the mood swings? Is it the weight gain? Is it that your sleep's so disturbed? I mean, what is it right now, this month, that's really, really concerning you or really affecting, your health, your healthy feeling, your feelings of being healthy and well? And then let her answer. And actually 2 months later, it may change, but that could be an ongoing conversation between the two, which allows her to communicate, you to listen, and then, back and forth. It's just this is the richness of developing that kind of space for each other. And also for the husbands, I want them to be able to say, well, I feel, you know, so many, when I meet with a woman, she'll say, he just feels like I don't desire him anymore, or I don't want to have sex because I haven't slept through the nights in 40 nights and whatever. I'm waking up in a whole sweat. I have to change the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times what happens is the husband feels like somehow it's about him. Like, well, she doesn't desire me. And so as wives, it's really important to say, hey, like, I still dig you and everything. Okay. But this is what's happening with me. And I wonder if we could try this instead, or I want you to know this isn't about you and this is how you can support me. Right. I mean, I'm not a therapist, but this is such a common scenario. I mean, it's just in
Well,
everyone's homes.
sexual intimacy is a big enough issue just in a
Already.
marriage already, but then
Sure.
you throw this in there, and
And
you're exactly right. Then
right.
and we as men, I'm not making it about us, but we as men, if there's not that communication, we just assume that, like you said, our
Right.
wife's not into us anymore, she's not in
Mm.
love with us anymore. Especially if your love language is that physical touch, And
Hmm.
so just love hitting on what you're saying is the importance of the communication
And
during
then
this
all of a
season.
sudden the wife is like, I'm dealing with this, and now you feel rejected, and you feel like I don't love you, and now I got to worry about you too, and now I'm
Mm.
worried about everything again, right? And then that mental load kicks up. Like, what is your
Mm.
advice to the wives that are like, your libido has dropped, you don't desire it, you're up at night, whatever you're dealing with, like, it's really, really hard.
Mm.
What can we do in any of these stages to kind of bring that up, to still find that desire to be intimate like that? I mean, I can honestly ask that question for myself because I'm in perimenopause and like sleepless nights, the whole deal is
Mm.
hitting me hard, and it's like it's not about you. I literally just I don't have that drive anymore. Like, what can
Mm.
we do? What is your biggest
Mm.
tip?
Biggest tip. Wow.
I
Um,
Putting her on the spot.
no,
know.
well, I could say a lot here. I think communication, like we mentioned, is probably the one of the most important things. And I do think that if we can remember what desire is, okay, there's changes in your desire and your libido because of the hormonal shifts, right? But not only that, like, do you have teens in the home? Are you teaching somebody to drive? Are you taking care of aging parents? Are you at the peak of your professional life? Are you this is not the only thing happening
Check,
in a
check, check.
woman's life, right? I mean, we have this whole other going on at this time, at this
Right.
exact time in a woman's life. This is so important to remember that it is not just this, it's all of it, right? And so when we communicate about those things, that's huge. I do think we have to remember that desire, okay, your motivation to have sex comes from the same, and energy for that comes from the same energy tank as everything else. Somehow people think that there's a separate tank for sex, and there is not. It all comes from the same tank.
I love that.
So let's not be, beating ourselves over the head like, what's wrong with me? I don't have. And this is key for couples, and you all work with married couples. This season and this issue that with a lowering of desire or fluctuating is a couple's issue. This is not a her issue.
Love that.
Yes.
Love that.
If we can frame it in this way, that will get you. I have the chills because that can change the game right there.
Mm-hmm.
If you come to it together
Love
instead of a you versus me.
Love that.
that. Absolutely great advice
The perfect
because
advice.
anytime we see problem couples with having issues, whether it's financial things or no matter what it is, it seems like so often they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to do things individually instead of together as a team. And
Right.
no matter what you do, when you do it together as a team, you're going to have better communication, and you're now working to solve a problem. The problem's the issue rather than
Right.
it becoming, your spouse that's the issue, right? So I love these.
So I know people will go, wait, get more practical. I know what people are thinking, but this is key. This is key. But let me circle around, because for those who are going, okay, like, don't therapize me, just give me the nuts and bolts, right? Okay, number one, the research actually suggests that as women age, we don't get lower libido. Our libido doesn't really lower, so to speak. We just need more and different stimulation and eroticism.
Hmm.
Now, did you hear that?
I did.
Yep.
So the way we think about our libido as we age will affect our libido as we age. So if we think we're going to lose our desire, the research is pretty clear. If we buy into what up culture is saying and everything that is shown in the media, and we buy into that, it will affect your desire.
Yep.
If you listen to the science is saying you don't necessarily lose your libido. You just need to make some shifts. And so many people are opposed to making shifts.
Yeah.
That is so true.
So, number one, if you have vaginal dryness, you want to use a lube. This is, I can't have this conversation without talking about lube, because this is probably one of the biggest issues that comes up. When your hormones drop, your lubrication also drops. You may still lubricate like all great, but generally there's a shift. And when there's not enough lubrication, there's too much friction. When there's too much friction, there's pain. One of the number one reasons people stop having intercourse in this season is pain.
Yep. Amy won't even allow me to go to bed without lubricant. She's like, don't even try anything.
I don't know. We've just always been advocates for just start with it all the time. Like even before you hit this stage.
Yeah.
Like I think it's wonderful. I don't know how we can get that out there enough.
Well, I can't not bring it up, because I continue to do every workshop I do, every consultation. I continue to come up against people who, what is that? What do you mean? There's if you have too much friction, you're going to have pain. So painful sex is common, yes, because there's issues, but it is not normal.
Yeah.
Just because it's common doesn't make it normal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
So also, if you want to look into HRT, hormone replacement therapy, if you're a candidate for that, if you want to look into something like that, if you don't want to have systemic replacement, then you might want to think about vaginal estrogen. Okay. Almost everyone can have vaginal estrogen, and it does really help with dryness and thinning of the tissues and all the things that hormone drops. And it's not systemic, it's local.
Yeah.
I'm talking like a nurse. It's there. It doesn't go into your bloodstream. It stays in the tissues there. So there's a lot of options, to help with symptoms. If you want to have a provider that can talk through that and is knowledgeable, and not all providers are, sadly.
Yeah,
for sure.
Agreed.
Also, don't be afraid to change up your positions or use pillows, or find the things that make especially intercourse more comfortable. And if intercourse isn't comfortable, no matter what you do, and as you're working through those issues, get outside the box of sex being intercourse only.
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
Agree 100%.
There's this word called outer course. Nobody knows it.
Well, I think as people age, I'm a stage ahead of all of you, but I think that really serves couples as they go into longer and longer term relationships to get out of that box, because there is so much pleasure to experience and have together that doesn't involve, intercourse.
Yeah,
right.
And that's just ways to explore too. Like I said, women really want different stimulation and eroticism, and that's where you're going to get some of that.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, and I think that's so true. We've experienced that in our relationship as well too, is just being willing to try new things or different things, not get all crazy, but just try to figure out what's enjoyed better and things like that. And it really has been a game changer for us.
And I love that you brought up like that's still in the same tank, right? Like it's all, I've always thought oh, this is dropping, and not because it's tied to everything else. That was such a great point. I think like my biggest tip is like at this age, like you got to make it fun, right? If something doesn't feel good and it's not fun and it's not bringing you closer together, you're not going to want to do it. Your brain's automatically going to be like, nope, don't think, like, don't need that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
like, if
that's
we
the
can make,
research
yeah,
right there.
yeah,
If
yeah,
if you're not enjoying the sex you're having, right, Amy, which is what
right,
you're saying, if you're
right.
not enjoying the sex you're having, that's not a desire issue. That's a pleasure
Yeah.
issue.
Exactly.
Yes, yes.
And there's a difference.
There's a big
And there's a
difference.
difference.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. Mm-hmm.
So I want to hit on something you said at the first of the podcast because I think this is important to hit on. You said statistics show or something that most couples have the best sex, or many couples have the best sex after the age of 50. So for couples going through perimenopause and feeling like, oh man, how are we going to
Make it to that.
make it to that? Can you share the reasons why sexual intimacy becomes better for couples at that age, so that
Or can be, yeah.
or can be better
Mhm.
for couples at that age? What
Well,
does the research show?
yeah, yes. Good question. And we've talked a little bit about this. Communication.
Yep.
I mean, communication is what can make sex great.
Right.
And people that invest in that, communicating with each other about sex, that's part of what those couples describe. They also describe setting the stage or the environment for sex. You know, you don't want to stop doing that. You don't want to stop setting the stage. I mean, nobody wants to look at a pile of dirty laundry and get turned on. It just, I'm looking over at a dirty, no, like that doesn't, don't lose, we don't lose that. They still, couples that describe great sex, they invest in that. They make time. They also have learned to slow down.
Yeah.
Arousal and building arousal has become a part of their sexual encounters together. It's juicy because and also granted we're older, right? So we're often empty nesters, and we're often, like we're at a different stage. So we maybe can allow the time to really settle in and have a sensual experience together.
Right.
Those are a few of the things. I think the last thing I would say that, I mean, there's several, but that really come into this age and stage that you're talking about. And this, I wrote about this in my book because I had a client who was in this season, okay, 40, probably 48, maybe 50. And they were struggling. And he said, please educate me about your body so that I want to learn what's happening and what's changed with you so that we can experience pleasure together. Please educate me about your body. And this couple had been together years. I have the chills because this is so
What a guy.
What a guy.
nourishing, right?
Yeah.
And if couples could come to this stage where things are shifting and changing and ask about, tell me, we talked about this at the top of the show. Tell me what's changing. Show me with your hands what you like. Show me with your body. Educate me. That intention behind that. I mean, if that doesn't give you the chills like me.
Well, and that one phrase is, that's emotional connection, man.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, just like asking your wife that one question just shows you that you're here, you're listening, you're caring, right? That's emotional connection. That's what the ladies want.
We all do.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, I think that's great. So all the listeners out there, both husbands and wives, you're hearing the secrets to getting through this period in your lives.
That can be beautiful period of life.
Exactly. And the hope that your sexual intimacy and your connection as a couple can even be better, getting through this stage as well too. So any final thoughts or maybe tips to leave our audience before we wrap this up?
I'll get practical because I know people. I'll give you 3 things, and we may have mentioned this on another episode with you. But in this season, and as your hormones are dropping, men and women, try sex after exercise when your blood flow's already going and it's going to your genitals too, as an appetizer, not your dessert. Make sense? Before, not after you eat.
Yeah.
Then all your blood flow is not going to your digestion. Okay. And morning sex when your hormones are highest, especially for the men.
Did you
No,
hear
I
that?
didn't hear that one.
Hold
Not
on.
everybody loves that. They don't want to hear it.
That's I think Amy couldn't hear it through the
I
microphone.
missed that.
Just joking.
Anyway, three options to try. You don't have to try them all, but try one, see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, great tips. Let our audience know once again, if they're new, where they can find you. Tell us about your book.
Yeah, you can find everything on my website at cindysharkey.com. There you can find my book, Permission for Pleasure, Tending Your Sexual Garden, and my podcast, Permission for Pleasure also. Just everything's there. I'd love to meet you in the pages